I'm talking about like weird circumstances that are not illegal but still kind of weird, okay? Because this is not illegal. This is not illegal. Well, Shannon Sharpe, well, the accusation makes it illegal, but I'm saying like in the best case scenario for Shannon Sharpe, it's still very strange to do because she's 19 and he's almost 60.
To my family, friends, supporters.
Shannon Sharpe, 50 million lawsuit, heats up with X-rated text. Yeah, I don't know what the happened. What happened with Shannon Sharpe? He was texting a lady or something. I'm not going to lie, guys. Maybe it's up for me to say this. Not Unc, first of all. I can't believe Unc is a gooner and slash might have even done something worse than just gooning. Okay. Wait, what is happening? Okay. He loves OnlyFans. He had to step down from ESPN today. This all happened at your former gym and she was banned from the chain for berating the staff. Who? What? He's sexo a baddie. She was like 19 or something. Yeah, I saw a comment about this from one of my favorite TikTok comedians. I mean, he's a comedian, but he also has TikTok. He did, bro, don't say anything. I'm not saying anything. I'm not defending him. I don't know the details at all. But across the board, he's like almost 60, talking to a girl that's 19. This dude on TikTok was like, bro, that's like on the breathalyzer of pedophilia, you're blowing a 0.7. You know what I mean? Like on the breathalyzer of pedophilia, you're blowing a 0.7. Okay. Yeah, sure. It's not a 0.08. Like you're not over the legal limit, but like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like you're almost 60. Like what the fuck are you doing? Like that's wild. That's wild. That's wild. That's wild. Sexual assault, bath salts, bank vault, Lakers in 5. What? He was in a consensual BDSM relationship with a young OnlyFans model. She's accusing him of going beyond, but she's represented by Tony Busby. Oh, God. Tony Busby. Tony Busby is the guy who, remember, I said, as you guys know, I'm not famously a big Jay-Z fan. Okay? I think there's a lot to criticize Jay-Z over. He is a billionaire after all. Having said that, if you recall the Tony Busby case that came out that said that made a claim that like Jay-Z was doing or something and he had proof over it or whatever, but he takes on a lot of he goes up against a lot of high profile clients to make his name in the news, and some of those cases that he brings up are borderline extortion. That was the Jay-Z one was very clearly not a serious case. It smelled weird. It didn't pass my smell test at the time. People kind of got mad at me when I said it, but it came out that it was it came out that it wasn't exactly a credible case. Now, having said that, in this stance, it could be, you know, bag lawyers can actually land on a real case every now and then. I mean, we could take a look at what the deal is with Shannon.
Colleagues, I want to speak to you.
I always thought he was a very nice dude, though, which is this like definitely. I mean, this is definitely incredibly disappointing, if not shocking.
And from the heart, this is a shakedown.
We have a new public response, a new disturbing piece of audio, and new graphic text messages. The legal battle between NFL Hall of Famer Shannon Sharpe and his sexual assault accuser definitely has intensified. As we go through these new developments, who's telling the truth about what really happened? Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. A new legal war has begun.
Oh, the thing I wasn't going to say that, you know, I thought Unc might be gay. That's what I thought this whole time. So what was shocking, like, I know I saw the tapes, or I heard the tapes. Oh, my Shayla, I know, but I thought Unc was, you know, maybe down low, or not my Shayla, sorry, Mama Shell.
And this time it's between NFL Hall of Famer, podcaster, commentator Shannon Sharpe and the woman who's accusing him of sexually assaulting and raping her as recently as January of this year. Now, we covered this earlier in the week, but now Not only has Shannon Sharpe fired back in a major way, releasing a public message, a response, apparently revealing the identity of this Jane Doe, but he's also published never-before-seen apparent text messages between the two. Quite a response, to say the least. And then what happens? You think the story ends there? No. She fires back by releasing an apparent audio tape between her and Shannon Sharpe. This is crossed to a whole different kind of level, and I want to get into what we're seeing right now. We're going to break it down, but first, let's take a step back. Let's learn a little bit more about the backstory, what's happening here. So, we have 56-year-old Shannon Sharpe, who has been sued by an unidentified woman. She's going by the pseudonym Jane Doe, and she is suing him for $50 million in Nevada court. She claims that after meeting...
No matter how this turns out or what the truth is, Uncle's a straight-up loser for being a 56-year-old dude messing with a woman 1/3 her age. That's just how I feel. No, that's... I know. That in and of itself, like, the best possible outcome out of this entire scenario for Shannon Sharpe is still really bad. You know what I mean? Like, obviously there are boundaries, there are levels to how bad, but it's still, you know, not to mention the race play. No, I don't care about that. Like, come on, whatever. Dude, he is like bookmarking this for when Hasan is 60. I'll be long dead by then, chatter. But that's crazy, man. You got a teen at the end of the age. If you're almost 60, that is a wild thing, dude. What the, like, you know what my rule is, okay? I'm not big. I'm a faillennial, okay? And as a faillennial, I don't have the Zoomer attitude on age gap relationships or whatever, where I think like a 19-year-old with an 18-year-old is a unjustifiable age gap or whatever the Zoomers freak out over, okay? But there's levels to it where, you know, if you're pushing 60 and you're going after anything below the age of, like, I'll be as nice as possible, 24, okay, you're kind of weird. Post 25, I don't give a shit, okay? And obviously that age can change, but god damn, dude. No, not half plus 7. No. And for people that are going to yell at me and say, oh, 24 is still out of pocket. No, dude, the entire point is once you're 25, you're a 25-year-old woman, you're a whole ass adult, okay? I'm not going to sit here and act like a woman who is over the age of 25 is an infant, okay? Calm down. You're a goddamn adult. It's ridiculous. Doesn't matter. At that point, like what? You think a 25-year-old woman and an 87-year-old man are in a relationship and the 25-year-old woman, barring all of the other underlying of like having some sort of power over that person, you think the 25-year-old is not consenting to this process? Like, you think the 25-year-old doesn't know what's up? Like, what are you talking about? This is why I said I'm not a Zoomer. I'm sorry, okay? If anything, the 25-year-old knows what the fuck is up, year-old, okay? You know, ladies, get your bag, do your thing, all right? I'm with you. Don't listen to these other people. They're chirping in the wind. Like, it's so stupid. Just for clarity, is this your feeling the same if genders are flipped? First of all, nobody gives a shit about men in this conversation. Let's be real, okay? Yes, it doesn't fucking matter. Yeah, it only doubles for when I'm talking about like a 25-year-old man and a 900-year-old woman, okay? You are literally history's greatest monster for this take. Yeah, I think it's so, I think it's like it's just like kind of odd that people have all of these rules, but like, yeah, I don't even think people give a shit if it's an 18-year-old man and a 70-year-old woman, for the record. Like, I don't think people would give a shit at all. Bad take. You're a young girl, probably went to uni after school, and your only life experience at other young adults and no responsibilities. 24 and 30, fine. 60 and 24, massive power imbalance. What do you mean? 60 and 24 means the power imbalance favors the woman. This is my point. What do you mean massive power imbalance? You're letting grandpa up onto the fucking bed at that point. Like, what? What do you mean? That's why I said barring other circumstances, like this is your boss or some shit like that. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck? This is why people get Zoomers get so mad. This is how you can track whether or not someone is a Zoomer or not, okay? They're asking for the 21-year-old man with a 48-year-old woman, to be honest, the age range where you do care. No, there is no fucking age range for the man if we're being totally real, okay? Unless the dude was like underage at a certain point when the grooming took place. But if we're talking about broadly in society, do people care? No, fuck no. People don't even care when women are being pedophiles, dude. It's fucked up. That I definitely have a hard stance on. When you got like one of these like teacher types and people are like, oh, it's sick. Like a female teacher and a male student. Like, no, I think it's gross. I think it's sick in the opposite direction, not like sick. And like I said, it's entirely dependent on circumstances. It's entirely dependent on like mental acuity. But the reality of the matter is like, there is a certain point where you're just infantilizing a woman in that situation. And I feel like 25 is a good stance. You know, 25 is like a good, as close to a hard line as you can get in that situation. All other moments that you talk about, like famous ones, like Aaron Taylor Johnson or whatever, are weird and gross and possibly illegal due to when the contact was established by the older female party, where Aaron Taylor Johnson was like, what, 14 or 15 or something? Like when this older director lady found him and started establishing a relationship with him. Like, that's the reason why it's fucking weird. Are you denying the overpowering aura of a geriatric man? Zoomers crying because they don't think that 25 is an adult. Yeah. You gotta be treated like a full-blown, adult at some point. And that's why I think like 25 is a decent line in the sand for people that are over a certain age is what I mean. Like 25 is when like ultimate age unlock. Okay. Like that's it. So that's why I don't even give a shit. And obviously different strokes for different folks. Everyone is different. I'm just trying to establish as hard line of a boundary as I possibly can. Zoomers can panic all day, every day about this issue if they want to. Having said that, this is beyond that. Like I said, this OnlyFans model was like 19 and this dude is 60. Like, come on, dude. Like, I saw the pics. Okay. I get it. But like, be a fucking, be an adult. Okay. Jesus Christ. Like, the fuck are we doing? It's crazy. It's crazy.
Shannon Sharpe at the gym back in 2023 and beginning a consensual relationship with him, who, by the way, she claims is 30 years older than her. It escalated into him allegedly insisting they record their sexual activity.
Imagine thinking people are grooming 25-year-olds. No, I'm not entertaining this. That's ridiculous.
Times without her knowledge. Him sharing those videos with others. Him allegedly telling her that he would do things to her that, quote...
Do I think the age of consent should be 25? No, I don't. I'm not saying that. I'm talking about like weird circumstances that are not illegal but still kind of weird, okay? Because this is not illegal. This is not illegal. Well, Shannon Sharpe, well, the rape accusation makes it illegal. But I'm saying, like, in the best case scenario for Shannon Sharpe, it's still very fucking strange to do because she's 19 and he's almost 60. Okay? If she was 25, I wouldn't, and in the best case scenario, I would not give a fuck. Okay? Hasan groomed a 40-year-old man into thinking he's a Democrat. Okay, shut up.
Would make no other man want her, that he allegedly manipulated her, controlled her, threatened her, intimidated her, was able to gain access to her apartment complex without her permission. For example, this is from the lawsuit. It reads, the verbal abuse never stopped.
Like, people were yelling at Dave Portnoy, who's like 48, and he's dating like a 26-year-old. And I saw that and I'm like, come on, dude. Like, yeah, he's gross. And any woman dating him is a weird situation. But like, you're out of your fucking mind. Like, she's 26 years old. You think she is a baby? You think she doesn't know you think she doesn't know what's going on? Like, the weirdest part about it is that Dave Portnoy is dating someone that the weirdest part about it is that Dave Portnoy is not dating a 19-year-old. Like, that's crazy. Like, you're talking about a woman that's able to fucking rent a car, that's not even on her parents' insurance at this point, that's been paying taxes. Like, get the fuck out of here. He's a creep for other reasons, but like, people were just like, dude, I can't believe how creepy that is. It's like, you're 46, she's 26. I'm like, dude, at what point does a woman become a human being and not like a baby child? Okay?
He would berate and degrade plaintiff, just as he had from the beginning. One time specifically, he was yelling at her while there was a firearm visible in his room. Terrified for her safety, plaintiff tried sharing her location with friends from her iPhone just in case. But Sharpe saw her doing this. The moment he realized what she was doing, he grabbed her by the neck and told her, "If you ever do that again..."
25 still be groom taken advantage of? Yeah, I know. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, that's why I said there are other factors. But if we're just looking at age, obviously age alone, 25 is ridiculous, like post 25. That's why I use my words very carefully when I said this.
"And I will bleeping kill you." And then, this finally all allegedly culminated with Jane Doe claiming that in October of 2024, Sharpe violently sexually assaulted and raped her in Las Vegas, all while she was allegedly sobbing. And she claims he did this in January of 2025, her allegedly begging him to stop as this was purportedly going on. So she has sued him for assault, sexual battery, sexual battery, intentional infliction of emotional distress. She's being represented by Texas attorney Tony Busby, who we know famously represented a Jane Doe in a now defunct sexual assault lawsuit against...
Yeah, I mean, the fact that it's Tony Busby still rings a little bit of, I mean, it's a little bit concerning. It's a little bit concerning because it's like, you know, this is kind of his thing. This is what he does. He's a fucking massive MAGA freak.
Jay-Z. He represents several accusers and actions against Sean Diddy Combs as well. But as I mentioned, Shannon Sharpe has responded. This is what we want to get into. And let me tell you, did he respond? A lot of money at stake in this case, right? And talking money, actually, how about getting money back? Let me tell you about Upside. Upside is fantastic. It is a free app that gets you cash back when you buy daily essentials. I pump my...
Bro, these ads have gotten straight dystopian, okay?
25 cents back on every gallon on your first tank of gas. So first, we have this statement from him on his Instagram where he says that he's going to be open, transparent, defend himself because this isn't right. And he says that this whole thing is being orchestrated by Tony Busby.
Tony Busby targets black men, and I believe he's going to release a 30-second clip of a sex tape that tries to make me look guilty and play into every stereotype you could possibly imagine. That video should actually be 10 minutes or so. Hey, Tony, instead of releasing your edit, put the whole video out. I don't have it, or I would myself. You know what happened, and you're trying to manipulate the media.
And he goes on to say that the encounter in question took place during the day at the invitation of Jane Doe, says that this was all a deliberate setup by her. He also, by the way, revealed her first name, and apparently her name that she purportedly uses on OnlyFans. We're not going to reveal those names here. We're not going to do that. But he does go on to say, quote, "My career is all about real talk and honesty. I know my family and fans know exactly what this is about, and I'm going to be out there telling you whatever I need to say, just like I always do." And we also got a statement from his attorney, Lonnie J. Davis, and that reads, "Mr. Sharpe categorically denies all allegations of coercion or misconduct, especially the gross lie of rape, and will not submit to what he sees as an egregious attempt at blackmail. He stands firmly by the truth and is prepared to fight these false claims vigorously in court." And Davis has also commented about that apparent tape that was seemingly referenced by Sharpe because he accuses Jane Doe of providing a, quote, secretly recorded and heavily edited video to them that purports to be a non-consensual encounter of some kind. But Davis claimed that Jane Doe, quote, has refused to provide a copy of the full unedited version of the recording to Mr. Sharpe's legal team. And then there's this. Sharpe and his legal team released all of these apparent text messages between him and this Jane Doe, reportedly 44 pages worth of communications. For example, as reported by TMZ, there's one apparent message from October 2023 where Jane Doe seemingly messages Sharpe, "I want you to put a dog collar around my neck and choke me with it while you're bleeping me." Now, the New York Post reporting on other messages allegedly from Jane Doe, like, "Tie me up and do bad things to me. I know you missed this big juicy bleep, 25K for each cheek. Tie me up like this and bleep me," with Sharpe replying, "If I knew how to, I would." She then allegedly wrote back, "It's okay, I have handcuffs. We can stick to those for now." Jane Doe also allegedly writing, "I want like some hardcore BDSM action though, and feeling kind of freaky lately." Then you have this apparent message from March 14th, 2024. "I want to be abused, daddy."
So I don't get it. Was this like a sex worker situation? Like a like a BDSM sex worker situation and he like got out of line? Is that what it is? Fair. Sharpe's lawyer disclosed that they try to settle for 10 million, not looking good for him. Like it seems initially, it seems like it started off as like a consensual BDSM, consensual possible BDSM sexual relationship, and then he stepped out of line, which is really important in both sex work and also BDSM in general. I feel like I know what happened. She asked him to role play some crazy shit, then set it up and filmed it. That ended the part of her asking. No, I don't think that's the case. You need to acknowledge that older men have more social power than younger women, by the way. Oh my God. I know. In this circumstance, especially so. But that's not the conversation that I was bringing up. I'm talking about a situation on just age alone, saying that like a 25-year-old woman is getting, without any other additional factors at play, saying that, let's say you have a 25-year-old multimillionaire, okay? Or a 26-year-old doctor who comes from a very wealthy family. She's a woman, okay? I'm woke. I know you immediately thought Dr. Man, Dr. Woman in this circumstance, because this is a woke broadcast, okay? And she's fucking a 68-year-old homeless guy. What happened to the power imbalance? Do you see what I'm saying? Like 25-year-old women have agency, guys. I'm sorry. It's crazy. Not that it matters in this situation. The reason why I brought that up was because I knew that this is, like I said, something the Zoomers get real fucking mad about. And my point was proven instantly. Having said that, this doesn't even matter in the conversation that we're having currently, because the conversation we're having currently is where Unc is, I mean, he's in deep trouble.
And then another message from last year where she apparently wrote him, "I've always wanted a black baby." Now, Lonnie Davis commented that, quote, "The evidence paints a clear picture. This was a consensual adult relationship that included role-playing, sexual language, and fantasy scenarios." So what happens then? Again, this is not the end of the story. Jane Doe ends up releasing an audio tape seemingly between her and Sharpe. And I'm going to explain part of what is heard on this tape. We can't play it for legal reasons, but here is part of the exchange, and this part is key. Again, this is from the audio tape. Jane Doe says, "Don't manipulate me." Sharpe replies, "If you say that word one more time, I'm going to choke the bleep out of you next time I see you." Jane Doe pauses, takes a minute, and says, "Well, I don't want to be choked." And Sharpe replies, "Yes, you do. I don't think you have a choice in the matter." Now, to be clear,
The song "Stop Running" cover for Creepy Unc. Point to me where I fucking ran cover for Unc. Why do I ever cover news? Like, why? Why do I ever fucking do anything? I should just like play YouTube videos and unironically let the chair do the talking, because people just make up their own minds. I've been saying exactly this. You downplayed it by saying she's 25. Oh my God. Clean your fucking ear. You must have earwax inside of your ears, because that is the opposite of what I said. I said, in this circumstance, it doesn't matter, because clearly she was 19 when he, a whole ass 60-year-old adult, met her. That is gross and creepy, even in the best possible scenario where this is a circumstance where there was no rape that happened, even though, like, that would be the best possible scenario for Shannon Sharpe, and it would still be fucking gross. That's what I said. She was 19 when they first met. That is insane, okay? That's my point. The reason why I brought up the 25 thing was to talk about how like people infantilize women sometimes, but that's not even the case here anyway, which is something that I kept saying over and over again.
This tape may only be a portion of the entire conversation and audio, but this appears to be a portion nonetheless. Jane Doe's attorney, again, Tony Busby, described this audio as, quote, "The contents of this clip are certainly not sexual. They are not playful. They are instead disturbing,
aggressive,
You were ignoring
me because you know I'm right."
This audio paints a very clear picture of how Sharpe treated Jane Doe, leading her to escape from him by leaving Nevada and blocking all contact with him. And he added that they released this audio in response to Sharpe's lawyer, Lonnie Davis, trying to discredit Jane Doe by releasing all of these alleged texts, which, by the way, Busby says are basically irrelevant because they're all before the alleged assault. Okay, so now I want to bring on Mauricio Padilla, litigator, criminal defense attorney, to talk more about this. Mauricio, thanks so much for taking the time. Let's just start with the lawsuit and the allegations, suing for $50 million. A very graphic detail.
This was not a sex work situation. So they were in a, I don't understand, because he said $25K for each cheek, and I don't know if he was just memeing when he said that, or I mean, or I don't know if it was like a sexual fantasy thing. It could very well be that they had no like sugar baby situation whatsoever. She said that, but it doesn't matter, because in I think like the most charitable assessment of this situation in front of us, not only is it still incredible weirdo behavior, but it's also but it also is definitely a violation of consent, even if they had at some point a consensual BDSM relationship, right? Or they were doing race play or choking, things of that nature. It's clear that the boundaries of consent were violated in that process. And if you know anything about BDSM, and it's not really my cup of tea to begin with, but you know, from all of my advocacy for sex workers in general, and also advocacy around this sort of sex work specifically, consent is one of the most important factors here. And you have to be incredibly careful and incredibly thoughtful when you engage in any sort of BDSM relationship.
About these multiple alleged sexual assaults and rapes. Your take just on the initial lawsuit and allegations.
I mean, my take on the initial lawsuit and allegations and the publicity that's come right after it. I mean, there's rules of ethics to prohibit people from trying their case in the media, and I think from the
upside, get an extra 25 cents back on your first gallon of gas using code SIDEBAR with a photo of Shannon Sharpe looking yacked out of his fucking mind as they're talking about rape allegations. What a crazy time to be alive, chat. Oh my God.
onset, both sides are engaging in releasing what could be evidence, and the rules of ethics from state to state vary, but they pretty much usually are concentrated on not releasing any information that could possibly affect a jury. And they're out there releasing pages and pages of text messages. They're out there releasing audio. It looks to me like both sides are engaged in trying to litigate this in the media before litigating it in a court of law.
But isn't that the Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively effect, right? Isn't that what we're seeing now? It's let's battle this out on the court of public opinion, particularly, by the way, when you're dealing with such a public figure like Shannon Sharpe. The idea of if I'm fighting this in a court of law, but I'm also fighting this in the court of public opinion, if I can put enough out there to try to reverse the narrative, maybe not only I'll still retain my fan base, my career, but also it puts pressure on Jane Doe maybe to stop the lawsuit. Or maybe not, because she fired back too.
No, I'm not saying that you know, they shouldn't do it, because unfortunately we live in a time where if you don't do that on behalf of your client, are you doing them a disservice? I'm just mentioning the fact that none of this is really allowed pursuant to the rules of ethics, but I understand why they're doing it, because nowadays pretty much the court of public opinion is dictating what happens in court in and of itself. Right. So it's just part of litigating cases nowadays.
Are you concerned by the content, the value of those text message conversations? Does it complicate this case? Let me rephrase. Putting aside, assuming these really are the real conversations and the real messages of Jane Doe, you could say, I mean, she's talking about BDSM, tying up, dog collars, choking, and then she accuses him of sexual assault and being violent with her. Let me actually read you something from the lawsuit. Okay, so this is from the lawsuit. It says, a woman can say yes to consensual sexual relations with a man 99 times, but when she says no, even once, that no means no.
I mean, this is true. Like, this is literally true. So, yeah, defendant Shannon Sharpe, a man who is accustomed to getting what he wants, completely fails to understand his basic concept. After many months of manipulating and controlling plaintiff, a woman more than 30 years younger than he, and repeatedly threatening to brutally choke and violently slap her, Sharpe refused to accept the answer no and raped plaintiff despite her sobbing and repeating screams of no.
Defendant Shannon Sharpe, a man who is accustomed to getting what he wants, completely fails to understand this basic concept. After many months of
that's why I said, even in the most charitable estimation of what took place, regardless of the fact that it was that fucking asshole Busby guy, it seems like even if there was at any point a consensual BDSM relationship established, like it seems like Shannon Sharpe violated those boundaries.
Manipulating, controlling plaintiff, a woman more than 30 years younger than he, and repeatedly threatening to brutally choke and violently slap her. Sharpe refused to accept the answer no and raped plaintiff despite her sobbing and repeated screams of no. So you look at those messages, are they irrelevant?
If you establish a pattern of, S&M, a pattern of voluntarily submitting yourself to someone, to accepting, violence, to accepting as part of the norm of your sex life, then obviously that's something that can be used, because he's going to say, yeah, it was consensual. So when
you don't have enough info to say that, Gross. I mean, I'm taking into account what she's saying. That is a valid claim that she's making. I don't know if it's, I'm not immediately going and disbelieving the person that is making this claim. And even then, I'm being as charitable as possible. But it is correct. That is a correct statement.
Jury's trying to analyze whether or not these acts of violence were consensual or not. They can obviously look to the history of the relationship and whether or not she's going to admit it. So now you put her on the stand and you're like, so you allowed him to choke you. You allowed him to hit you previously. And that was something that you guys engaged in, voluntary sexual behavior, and you found it pleasurable. And you did it for the X amount of months. But then on this particular day, you told him no. So it's something that it's fruitful to bring up a trial. I think they would be doing them a disservice if they didn't explore that more. And ultimately, what Mr. Busby saying is true. A woman can say yes 99 times and say no that 100th time, but the historical behavior of accepting violence as the norm in your bedroom and in your sex life is something that a jury can look at to determine whether or not she did in fact say no, because he's going to say that she said yes. He's not going to admit that she said no, that he raped her.
No, I hear you. And I knew that he was going to get on the defensive. I mean, if you believe his side, right, that he's completely innocent, you get hit with this lawsuit, right? You want to defend yourself immediately. He goes out, he puts out this message on Instagram. Do you think he was advised by his lawyer to do so? Let's start there. And B, naming her name, just the first name, and also what her apparent handle is or name on OnlyFans. Is that appropriate? That right? I mean, again, he's defending himself, but she filed this anonymously.
Right. Well, whether or not his attorney advised him to do it, if he took those steps without discussing it with his attorney should be very upset at him doing something of that nature. I don't think that an attorney can counsel their client to disclose the identity of a victim in a sex case. So I don't think that his attorney would ever admit to taking those steps simply because there's, laws to protect victims in sex crimes. But I understand why it's beneficial to his defense. I'm putting it out there. I'm saying who you are. I'm saying that you're an OnlyFans person. I'm saying that we were engaged in this voluntary sexual behavior where you possibly accepted money to do sexual things on camera or do sexual things for me. So it definitely benefits his defense in letting people know, listen, this is not the person that Busby's saying that it is. This is the person that I'm telling you who she is. So I think it's beneficial.
And to reverse it, I said this when I covered it earlier in the week, this lawsuit being filed by Tony Busby, he's got crosshairs on him right now. He filed a lawsuit against Jay-Z by a Jane Doe who claims that she was sexually assaulted by Jay-Z when she was 13 years old back in 2000. That lawsuit against him was dropped. The NBC did a report questioning the credibility of some of her claims. His attorneys came forward and said, no, we have proof that the people you say were there weren't there. And that lawsuit was dropped. He's now being sued. That Jane Doe's being sued. You would think, okay, if this happened, I'm going to maybe take a little step back here. But to go so public and forward with allegations against a high-profile figure like Shannon Sharpe, he must not only believe the account of Jane Doe, he must believe he's got the goods to back it up.
Definitely. And listen, when you're an attorney, you have wiggle room in the sense that if you have a client that's telling you what their version, you have to act reasonably, and you can't just believe someone that you may have knowledge that she suffers from psychiatric conditions, but you have a lot of leeway. Like, you have a client that's telling you, you're allowed to believe your client and you're allowed to litigate on their behalf. And obviously there's rules in place for a lawyer not to Pied Piper a complete myth and sue people without a basis. But, when you do have a client that's telling you what occurred, I think he has a lot of leeway in the way that he acts, simply because he has a client that's telling him, and he's allowed to believe that client. Now, there's limits. And apparently, regarding the Jay-Z, confronted with evidence that he couldn't refute regarding the lack of liability, then he dropped the lawsuit. If he's defending his own lawsuit, that's separate from this one. So I don't see why a guy like Busby would change his MO, so to speak, and retreat, because at the end of the day, he's making money. He's making money. He's trying to make money, and he's got insurance to defend him of lawsuits. So I don't see why he would change.
Now I want to move on to the audio tape. This audio tape that was apparently released by Jane Doe's side. Now, again, this might only be a portion of the conversation, but it is a portion of this conversation, and it's important. You'll have Tony Busby saying this is nothing fun about this. There's nothing sexual about this. This is disturbing. This is him threatening to choke her and saying she's not going to have a choice. Whereas I imagine you're going to hear Shannon Sharpe say there's more to context to the conversation. Look at what our relationship was like. But this was another move in this chess game, releasing this audio tape. What's your take on it?
Well, listen, an audio tape like that is damning, just because if you're a man and you're talking like that to a woman, even if your defense is, you have to look at the totality of the circumstances. You have to look at the relationship that we had was submissive to me. And then I was, in a position where we would obtain sexual pleasure from me being a dominant figure. That has to be his defense. But a lot of people would reject that right off the bat. Like, that's something that a lot of people are not going to stomach, are not going to understand. And he definitely has his work cut out in trying to explain to the viewing public why that type of language to a woman is appropriate. It has to be, his defense has to be that you're only looking at a small piece, but if you look at the entire relationship, that's how we would do it, and that's because she was submissive to me. People are going to reject that.
Now, I'll tell you this. As this came out, I said to myself, how did they release those messages so quickly? They must have had it ready, right? You can't just have those messages. And I said to myself, did they know this was coming? Well, what do I come to find out? According to NBC, Lonnie Davis, again representing Shannon Sharpe, has confirmed that Sharpe apparently made a financial offer to this Jane Doe to try to settle this case before she filed it. In fact, while it seems he first said that it was tens of millions of dollars, then clarified and said it was at least $10 million. So the idea that if that's true,
yeah, I mean, that is, I think, that right there, I think, is probably one of the, that is probably one of the worst looks in this process. Because, like, even if I were to put myself in the mindset of a scumbag defense team, okay, I'm Shannon Sharpe's lawyer in that process. Like, what is his response? Oh my God. That is all but an admission of guilt. You know what I mean? Ignoring the reports of the $100 million deal Shannon's network was closing on. I mean, even then, dude, what do you mean? You're not going to you're not going to try to pack that up ASAP with 10 million. I understand not wanting to go through the process of like a frivolous lawsuit or whatever, but like $10 million is pretty crazy. Are you giving 10 million? Let's say you have a $100 million deal down the line, okay? Are you giving someone randomly accusing you 10 million? Like, you're just going to blow away 10 million on optics alone? That's crazy. That's crazy. That's, there's a reason why settlement discussions are not admissible as evidence, so a jury will never hear it. Well, good thing we're not a part of the jury. I'm just thinking about it from my own, like what I think is going on here. 10 to protect the 100, yes. 10 to protect the 100, but 10 to protect the 100 over, in his, if everything in here is completely fucking fabricated, yeah, you don't drop 10 bills on it. That's crazy. Like that, come on. Can we just be honest? Can we be honest with ourselves here and with everyone around? Like 10 million to 10 million to stop this from going through is a crazy amount. Might as well come out and be like, yeah, I did that shit. My bad. What if that story now removes 100 mil completely? To be fair, the team is trying to get the 100 million ones from Disney, and he knows even if he's not guilty of anything, they had a sexual relationship, so she has some sort of evidence. No, I understand that. But again, off rip.
They tried to get to settle it, and then she files, and now they... What does that tell you?
Listen, I think that's part of what Busby has been doing historically. Like they approach you and they tell you, listen, we have this. Let me know if you want to resolve this previously. I think if anybody looks at like the P. Diddy didn't do it, right? And then they filed against him and he settled the case in a day. We see the value of resolving cases. So I think it's
also the other side of this is if it's fake, if it's completely fucking fake and you don't have this dude dead to rights, you take the 10 mil. Who doesn't take the 10 mil? Like, can you imagine? Are you kidding me? It's the greatest payoff of all time. Like, what are you talking about? Let's say this is extortion, okay? Pure extortion. You know you got him dead to rights because you had a BDSM relationship. Let's say it's completely above board. BDSM relationship, consensual, but there's footage out there. If Disney catches wind of that, okay, then he's cooked, right? Disney catches wind of that. He's done. You farm him. I'm not saying this is what happened. I'm just trying to help you understand why that is a crazy fucking situation. You got, if this is a false claim, if it's a false claim across the board, okay, if it's a false claim across the board, you're dropping your chance of bringing in $10 million for potentially a long, drawn-out legal battle that is going to put you in the crosshairs of the public, and you might not make any money off of that at all. No shot anyone's fucking taking that deal. This is a stupid take, bro. This is all about leverage. She got him by the balls. He either gives 50 million or he fucked 10 million. How many subscribers do you think she gains now? She probably is more famous than Sophie Rain. What? No, dude. No shot. No shot. You take the 10 million. If you're making this up, you take the 10 million every time. You guys are crazy. Okay. If you are accusing someone, if you're accusing someone and you're lying about it and that person offers you $10 million, you're taking that. It's fucking amazing. Like, what do you mean? Clout chasing by, in this economy and in this fucking social media marketplace where women who have valid claims, and she very well most likely has a valid claim here as well. But I'm saying, like, in this economy, let's say you're going to extort someone, a beloved figure. There's a racial element accompanying the story, but still a beloved figure, a beloved male figure nonetheless. Get the fuck out of here, dude. I'm surprised, even if it was real, and she, like, most likely is, but in that situation, most people will still take the 10 million. This is why you will never be a good crypto grifter. You need to squeeze them for all they got. People are greedy. They want more than 10 million. Guys, oh my God, you're insane, okay? You're insane. Even if it's not, I'm not even entertaining the other side of the argument where it's like, oh, a settlement doesn't mean guilt, right? I'm not even saying that. If you're actually extorting somebody and they off rip offer you 10 mil, you're taking that deal instead of getting $0 down the line potentially and then being ridiculed and threatened and possibly doxxed, harassed, swatted. Like, you're out of your fucking mind.
It's on par with how Busby has been litigating his prior cases to give them an opportunity. When you look at it, yeah, settlement negotiations are usually privileged. If someone hears that he offered $10 million, what is a normal person going to think? He's guilty of something. because people don't just, even if you're rich, don't go out there throwing around tens million or millions of dollars to resolve cases when they're innocent. People are gonna associate that offer of settlement, which they probably shouldn't, but they will. They're gonna associate that offer of settlement with guilt.
At the time of this recording, I haven't seen Shannon Sharpe file a countersuit of any kind, but talk to me if this works. Could he countersue for defamation, or is there a litigation privilege, right? You're allowed to make claims against somebody. You're shielded away from every time anybody sues anybody, the other side will say it's not true. You can't just turn around and say it's defamation, right? I mean, could he sue for defamation?
Right. Well, you're right. There is a litigation privilege regarding defamation actions. So I always tell people this when people ask me, can they sue? People can sue all the time. Whether or not it's going to survive a motion to dismiss, honestly, I've seen it in my career over 22 years. People sue for things that are ultimately going to get dismissed, and it doesn't affect their willingness to do it, their desire to do it. But you're right. There is a litigation privilege because I guess the mindset, the universal mindset is that you don't want to be gagging people in a court of law. You want people to have the freedom to express themselves openly without the threat of litigation while they're in litigation. And that's the entire. So to answer your question, it seems like you're right. A litigation privilege does apply, but nowadays people get sued for all kind of things.
And I wouldn't be surprised if we see a countersuit because, again, his perspective is this is blackmail. These are false allegations. And by the way, what's the timing of it? And by the way, when we talk about Shannon Sharpe, he's a powerhouse in the podcast space. Hosts Club Shay Shay, Nightcap, tons of followers. According to Front Office Sports, he's expected right now to sign a new contract worth more than $100 million. Do you think that comes into play?
I feel like that's gone.
The problem with people that have those types of contracts is it doesn't have to mean that you're guilty or not guilty. Just the news in and of itself is going to affect your ability to do your job and to execute contracts. Now,
yeah, if it's fake, no way Sharpe is coughing up $10 million not to deal with it, but declining $10 million is the most damning. The scumbag lawyer is probably losing his shit when his client declined the money, regardless of what the truth is. But let's be real, the truth is he's guilty as fuck. That's how I feel about it too. I'm not gonna lie, bro, $100 million deal on the line for him. He throws 10 million out there and she's like, nah, fuck that. That's crazy. Bro, you take the 10 million in that situation, whether you are lying or not, you definitely take the 10 million if you're fucking extorting, but you most likely take the 10 mil even if you're not extorting. This is the nuclear option here. Are you kidding me? If you're lying, you take the 10 mil every day of the week, 100% of the time. Okay? If you're not lying, you probably still take the 10 million because who the fuck wants to deal with all of the goddamn headache that comes along with it? Like, that's crazy. You don't have to have your shit aired out and you still get 10 million. Yeah, that's what I mean. It's crazy. Unc has his dating settings on the app for 18 to 20. Yeah. Now we know Hasan would settle for 10 mil. Yeah, first of all, I'm a dude, okay? And secondly, if I was in her situation and I really wanted to fucking make sure that I outed a scumbag, okay, my disposal, I have a lot more power at my disposal. I have a fucking platform that I can use. So my situation is, I think, a little bit different than hers. You know what I mean? But in her shoes, as a woman especially, you take it every time. So that makes me inclined to believe that she has a valid case and is not farming.
If he loses all,
yeah, dude, in this political climate, exactly. I think chatters are on fucking crack cocaine if they think that, like, you can have look at Megan Thee Stallion, okay? Look at Megan Thee Stallion. She didn't even bring up Tory Lanez. She actually tried to defend Tory Lanez. That was a criminal suit. And she was victimized again and again and again in that process for simply being shot in the foot by fucking Tory Lanez. Like, that's an insane situation. She didn't want to be no part of this, and yet she still got cooked in the process. Like, women are automatically guilty in the post Me Too era. I feel like we totally had a pendulum swing where people just across the board, doesn't matter, you could be dead to rights, a fucking victim dead to rights a victim, try to defend the person who victimized you, and 90% of dudes that encounter your stories are going to be like, nah, she's wrong. Yeah, are you a woman? You're automatically guilty. Automatically.
$100 million contract because of this, whether there's a litigation privilege or not, you can expect a lawsuit. Even if the standard for a motion to dismiss is lower than the standard for a motion for summary judgment, you could file survive motion to dismiss, and routinely judges don't like to decide cases on summary judgment, and they often say that almost anything is an issue of fact for the jury because they know they're not going to get appealed when they make that type of ruling, and they like to kick it to a jury even if it is the type of case that shouldn't survive motion for summary judgment. So what I'm saying is that even if you have a clear defense, even if they don't have a good case, a lawsuit is still something that can be fruitful to either side.
Do you think this is going to end up settling, or is it now just too far down? How do you settle it without one side looking bad?
The problem is when you're dealing with someone like him, that his livelihood depends.
For the chatter saying, I'm only skeptical when there's a ton of money to be made, but I don't know shit about this. I'm telling you, she had the opportunity to fucking make the money and not even have this be public. She refused, which is what definitely leads me to believe that there is more to the story.
Depends on the way that people view him, on whether or not people reject him or not, whether or not people are going to tune in or not. Once we're at this point where me and you are discussing it publicly, and it's out in the media, then how do you really repair his reputation? We look at like Johnny Depp, how Johnny Depp had to spend millions of dollars to sue Amber Heard, and at the end of the day, the entire lawsuit was just for him to get back whatever reputation he had, so it wouldn't affect his ability to make money in the future. So in my opinion, I think that the genie's out of the bottle, and resolving it at this point isn't going to do anything for his reputation and his career. But you never know.
Yeah, I'm sure. And look, there could be a lot more to this as the league progresses. Mauricio Padilla, thanks so much for taking the time. Good to see you.
Thank you, sir.
And that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify.
Oh, man. All right. Well, this is a wild situation. I'm gonna quickly go over the kneecap story.